What's up, guys and gals, and welcome back to the Nerd Castle for the next episode of our weekend review. I'm excited to do this episode because I feel like I'm getting a little bit better at this point. Like, video logging is kind of like one of those strange things where you go from doing gameplay into doing video logs, and it is a lot different. Like, you would think the commentary would remain the same, but there's a lot of like facial expression and everything else that goes into it that becomes very important. And so I'm excited at the end of the week to get to do this because it's a practice skill. I get to practice a skill that I don't necessarily have a whole lot of aptitude at, and that's a cool thing for me. I like to expand my horizons a little bit. So weekend review, if you're not familiar, this is where we just hang out for a little bit, probably 20-25 minutes. I'm trying to streamline it down and get it to be a little bit shorter. I haven't quite got it locked down just yet, but it has been getting shorter over the last couple weeks, I guess. I know they've been coming in late, but that's because I've been doing a little bit more work when it comes to getting the video log set up. I've been looking at the questions a little bit more carefully that people want me to ask, not necessarily like the Q&A ones, but the ideas for video logs, and I've been jotting down notes and trying to make sure that we actually have things to talk about when we go into them, because sometimes I feel like I'm just rambling and I'm not actually getting anything done along the way. What the series used to be is we used to talk about like the random series that we were playing here on YouTube. We used to talk about the way that they were performing, the view counts, kind of like the analytics and the things like that, my personal thoughts about the game, so that if I hadn't given the game the proper due pause and talked about it in the sense of like a formal review, we would do that there. But ultimately, I think people actually like it a little bit better when we just pick something to talk about and hang out for a bit. And so this week's topic is going to be, what would you say to yourself 10 years ago? And so the concept that's being proposed right now is that you, at whatever age you are at, what would you say to yourself if you could turn back the clock by 10 years, have a short conversation with yourself, and then jump back into the future in the hopes that maybe you would do it better? And life's interesting like that because you don't get second chances on a lot of this stuff. You get your first run, and that's all that you get out of it. Very rarely you will get a second chance, but that's not something to be taken for granted. And so I think it is an interesting topic, and I was mulling it about in my head. I had other things that I wanted to do, so there were definitely other like topics that I was thinking about doing, but I shelved those and I decided to go with this one because I think that this is actually an interesting point to talk about. And so what would I say to myself 10 years ago? Before I do that, I want to give you a little bit of background, because a lot of these things aren't going to make sense until I give you that background, because it's going to be sort of a dialogue between me and myself, a younger version of myself. And so when I was younger, I was locally famous as a musician. I was in bands from a very young age. My parents did not like my musicianship. That was something that they were very, very religious, and they knew what came along with the whole rock and roll lifestyle. And so I think they really tried to like steer me away from it, but that made me even more fascinated with it. So pro tip, parents, don't ever show your chagrin for something your child is like stoked about, because it'll just make them more interested in it. In fact, it comes as a bonus if they can make you upset about it. So anyways, I was sort of locally famous, kind of like in the county that I grew up, for playing guitar and being in bands, rock bands, heavy metal bands, punk bands, whatever. People knew me in the music scene. I played everywhere from San Francisco down to Los Angeles, all the way up to the border of California, and that's how I spent my probably the age of 15 to 22 or 23, was just playing music on weekends, traveling, having a good time, drinking beers, partying, and all of that good stuff that goes along with it, and sort of just like partaking in the lifestyle, I suppose. And so along that time, I developed quite an ego. Like, seriously, my ego was really sort of like a bowling ball on top of like a golf tee. If you wanted to know like the inflation quotient of my head, it was quite large. Like, I've got a big head to begin with. I got like a caveman forehead thing going on, like a big head to start out with, but it just got even worse. It filled up a lot. And so to set the stage right there, that's going to be the starting place, because at 18 years old, I was like flush in that period of my life. I was right there. And so I have to take that into account when I talk with myself about the things that are going on. And so the first thing, what would I say to myself 10 years younger? Well, to 18-year-old Splattercat, I would say this. First and foremost, go easy on your parents. I know the relationship has not always been the easiest, and you've had some really rough times, and I know you're trying to run away right now, and you never want to go back home. You're moving out. You don't ever want to see them again or anything like that, and I know that that's ingrained in your head due to drama that's been going on in your family and just arguments and the way that they view your lifestyle and the way that they want you to go about your business. But understand that nobody gives a parent a manual on how to raise a child, let alone an arrogant, narcissistic, locally famous, ego-ridden child like yourself. And I know you're 18 right now, and so to call you a child anymore is not fair, because now you're like responsible for your shit. But nobody gives a parent a manual for raising a kid, let alone a kid with all of this extra baggage that went along with it that they didn't expect. To add insult to injury, you're also the oldest child, so you're their first try at all of this. Like, your younger siblings will have it a little bit easier than you, But at the same time, you were their first try. So take it easy on them and repair that relationship now. Having repaired that relationship 10 years later, I can tell you that they're receptive to it. And that's like what they want. They want to have like a family that's back together as a unit and, you know, able to confer and have fun holidays and things like that. Just make up with them now, because they're nice, wonderful people that gave you a fantastic foundation to start off of. And over the next 4 or 5 years, you're going to squander time with them that you're never going to get back over just drama, just over stupid stuff that you just need to learn to forgive and forget and move forward. And if you do, they will as well. And I can tell you right now, 10 years later, it's possible for you to have a fantastic relationship with your family, and it's all on you. You just have to take that initiative. And so that's number one. I mean, second, I'd say lay off the ice cream sandwiches. Like, you've been putting horns on them things lately. You've been shoving them down. You've been eating a lot of food, a lot of ice cream. Really, it's those cookie ice creams. That's what really gets you, where it's the two big squishy cookies, and then they put the ice cream in the middle of it. I ate a lot of those, and you're going to eat a lot of those. I know you're 18 years old right now, and you weigh like 110 pounds. You're tiny. A wind could blow you like, and you'd be like, ah, and you would fly off into the distance. But lay off the ice cream sandwiches. It's going to cause you to gain a lot of weight. People are going to be very shitty to you. And because of that, you're going to develop some kind of weird mental complex about your image. You're going to spend a lot of time working out trying to get that weight off yourself. And I'm not sure that it's ever going to be damage that's actually going to be fixed. Yes, you are going to gain a lot of weight. In fact, like 120 pounds of weight. It's going to be it's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot. And you're going to take all that weight back off in the last couple of years. But if you could avoid the situation altogether, I would highly recommend it. With the way that fat cells work, when you gain fat cells, they never go away. And so once they are installed on your body, you will forevermore be struggling against that. And so it's easier just not to let them be created in the first place. So seriously, go easy on the sodas, go easy on the ice cream sandwiches, the chips and the random stuff. I realize you just turned 18 and you're living on your own, and that's like a magical period where you're like, wait, you mean I can eat cookies for dinner? And that's like what you do? I still indulge in that now. Don't ever let your childlike wonder go away about eating whatever the hell you want for dinner, but at the same time, maybe go easy on the sweets. It's not going to turn out very well for you. It's going to be a little bit of an odd situation. So there it is. Life is not fair. Bullet point number 3. That was my bullet sound, but it's not very good. It's kind of just, I don't even know what to say. It sort of sounds like it's like it's got kind of like a cat ring to it. I need to figure it out though. I should have gone that's the sound better, where you got like the ricochet going on off of like concrete or whatever. But life is not fair. Oh my God. Like, this is a thing that seriously, they should hand out pamphlets to parents that say, teach your child that life is not fair. Because I spent a huge amount of time, and you 18-year-old Splattercat will spend a huge amount of time coming to grips with the fact that life is not fair. People are going to cheat you and screw you and just do all kinds of random stuff, and those are going to be lessons learned. Take those on board. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. Just don't learn from the same mistake twice. I guess if you have to, but if you make a mistake the first time, try to learn from it and get it out there, because the big thing you need to take from all this is that life is not fair. Things are not evenly balanced. Like, people don't start at the same starting line and they don't finish at the same finish line. And that's one of the big nasty things that you're going to run into, and that you're really going to have hangups about, where you're going to feel like, but that's not fair. Well, that's how life works. And really, from morning up till sundown, we really, like, somebody should have ingrained in you at some point that it's not going to work out like that. Nobody's just going to like give it to you. And in fact, not only is nobody going to give it to you, but frequently, every now and again, the wolves are going to come out and they're going to try and take whatever meager earnings you got from you. And so not only do you have people not bestowing gifts upon you, but you've also got people coming along and collecting tolls quite frequently. So life is not fair. Come to terms with that fact right now and make up for the fact that it's not fair by hustling really, really hard. Because I was you. I remember what it was like to be you when I was 18. And I hate to tell you this, bruh, but you're lazy. I mean, that's what it comes down to. You're lazy, you don't put in the work, and then you get frustrated and you say that life's not fair. The quicker you get over that, the better life is going to be for you. And so that's the next piece of advice that I would give. That one took me a long time to figure out. It took me a lot of nights just sitting around staring at walls, just going, well, that's not fair, though. Just don't even think about the fact that it's not fair. Get back on the horse. Ride off. That's not a horse. I guess that's just 2 fingers. So like we go like that so that it's 4, but then that makes it look like some kind of weird like octopus horse. So you've got some weird like horse-to-puss thing going on. That doesn't sound like a good word anyways. But that's what I'm talking about, is just get that ingrained now when you're 18 or 19, and then move into the future understanding that, and make up for the fact that things are not fair by hustling 3 times as hard. And I promise, things will work out in at least some respects. Someone will notice what a hustler you are. And so World of Warcraft is the next point. You're 18 years old and you've been playing World of Warcraft now for about 7 months. You may want to take that a little bit lighter. Like, I understand you're ramping up right now for the Grand Marshal grind. I understand that you've met Swifty, you've met all these cool people online, and you want to be like them. But ultimately, World of Warcraft will be responsible for the destruction and burning down of a very, very large portion of your life. Seriously, I'm not saying you have to quit playing. Just take it in moderation, because it will become sort of a drug for you, and it is going to wipe out your relationships. It's going to wipe out your jobs. It's going to wipe out your hobbies and the things that you wanted to do in life, and it's going to take you years to like build that mound of stuff, that mound of hobbies back up before, you get back around to the place you were before you started playing that game. That game is a very destructive thing, and you have shown a very, very addictive personality for it. And so the quicker you get off the mount with that one, or you get off the flying dragon, or whatever the hell it is that you're doing at this given moment in World of Warcraft, the better off you're going to be. Don't let it destroy your relationships. Don't let it destroy your job, your opportunities. Seriously, there are better ways to be spending your time other than like avoiding going through job applications and playing video games, playing World of Warcraft. Not even video games. You can't even blame it on video games, but playing World of Warcraft 16 hours a day, sleeping 4 hours. It's not healthy. It's not healthy. And I know you're obsessed with escapism right now, and that at 18, you're not like quite as enthused about the world as you thought you would be. You graduated and you came up off this high peak, and then after that, life was not as awesome as you thought it would be. And so you immersed yourself in a video game world to escape from this one. It's not going to work out. Just set the escapism aside, learn to deal with the real world, and I think it's definitely going to help you out. Stop being angry so much. Oh my God, like anger is the worst emotion ever. There's like anger, there's jealousy, and frankly, those two things right there are utter destruction for one's personal life. And I know that as an 18-year-old, you're fueling yourself almost entirely on anger because, as I said before, you're figuring out that life is not fair, and that's throwing a whole lot into that rage fuel right there. But seriously, don't fuel your endeavors with anger because, yeah, the anger does produce a hot heat when used as a fuel, but at the same time, it stinks up whatever room that it's inside. So please, stop being so addicted to anger. Stop being angry all the time. Learn to unwind, and your life will be much better. Just some things in retrospect. Having lived my own life, now talking to you, past self, I would say that that's like one of those things that I would just look out for. And then finally, if things still do fall apart, don't waste your time being depressed and thinking about the good old days. The good old days are right now. Every moment that you're awake is a good old day in the making. Why? Because for me, I wax nostalgic very, very much. I wear the rose-colored glasses hardcore when I look back in the past. And frankly, you're in the good old days right now. So enjoy right now. The good old days are not back there. Yes, those were good days that you had. But the fact that life is not good right now and you had good days back then does not mean you need to spend all your time with your head whipped around like an owl, looking back into the past, wishing that it was then. Focus on the future. Put your hands to work with industry and with things in life that you can change rather than wishing that things from the past had turned out differently. And so those are just my thoughts that I would send to myself. In finality, I would say, this advice is something that you wish you could go back and you could do it over sometimes. And so this video is in some small way me satisfying that. Like, I do actually really feel like I've talked to myself in this video. Strangely enough, it seems oddly, I'm sure there's psychiatrists in the audience right now just being like, oh man, we need to get in on this right now. But that's just my thoughts for right now. So I figure that was what we would talk about. What'd you say to yourself 10 years ago? Those are my thoughts. There was a lot on the page right now, but I wanted to keep the video somewhat like timed out and sort of contained. So let's jump into our QA section. I'm trying realistically to get this down to 15-20 seconds. Q&A, question and answers with the Nerd Castle. Let's see. Badass Wing asks, have you got your silver plaque yet for 100,000 subscribers? I have not, and that's because Google there's a long delay in between like when you actually get the plaque, when they sign you up for it, and when it actually like you receive it. It's a long time. Like, I've heard from some people it took them almost like a year to get theirs. And so YouTube as of right now hasn't even like written me or anything else like that. They haven't sent me an email, just tippity tapped it on out to see if I wanted to have it made out just yet. I'm assuming that it'll show up eventually. I don't know. I'm not so sure. So I've heard that they send out a contact email, and then in the contact email, They get your information, they get where you live so that they can mail you the plaque. I haven't heard about it. I asked Mathis about it too because I know he hit 100,000 before I did, and I asked a couple other people who hit 100,000 and they all haven't gotten a contact either. So I assume that there's a pretty long delay. It's an exciting thing though. Like, I'm really, really stoked about the fact that they actually send out plaques for stuff like that because it's proof. It's something I can hang on the wall to show people that what I do is an actual job and that I've actually like achieved something in it. I had to do that the other night where I had to explain to somebody what my job was, and it's hard to explain that it's not just like a hobby. It's like a thing that's part of my daily routine now that I do 8, 10, 12 hours a day, just like everybody else works. And I think having little like accolades and plaques and things that like can go on the wall, like probably somewhere around like right there. Yeah, that looks pretty good. That spot right there, that's the spot, that map right there, that's like right in that spot. It's going to go somewhere else, and I'll probably put it right there so that it's on the video logs. But it's nice to have. It's kind of like you say you're in college, but when people ask you what you did in college, it's nice to have like the little plaque that says you graduated in this year and that it's got a picture of you. You know what I mean? It vouches for you, I guess. How do you feel? Danny Molinar wants to know, I heard from a friend that cactus may provide liquid and fluids when surviving in a desert. Is it true? And if so, does that count for any cactus? And your thoughts on the Anno game. So to the first question, cactuses do store a lot of liquid inside a membrane that's past the first skin. So they have a thick skin on the outside, and then they kind of have like this nasty goopy shit on the inside that's sort of like the inside of a pumpkin, but green, I guess. You don't want to eat that. As I understand, it also stores a lot of salt content that can dry you out. Now, if you're totally hard up, I guess you can, but I've heard that it can also make you sick. Now, this is not something that I've put to the test. I've been out in the desert. There's no cactuses where I go out to the desert. There's aloe vera plants, and there's some other little things out there. And an aloe vera plant, actually, you can do something with that. You can slice that open. There's a little thin membrane in between that you can eat that will both hydrate and fill you up. But with cactuses, it's hit or miss. As I understand it, various cactuses are a little bit different. Some of them can be eaten, and some of them cannot. And so you would want to look those up case by case. So that's how it goes for cactuses. As far as the Anno games, I've only played Anno 2070, the one that was in the future where you like rubber bandbox out all your buildings and you can be hippies or you can be industrialists. I liked the game. I liked it. I felt like there was a lot of like learning curve inside of it, and I never played it online, but I did enjoy my time spent with the game, and I feel like Ubisoft made a pretty good civilization builder. I enjoyed it. It was a good game. It's not like one of my favorite games of all time, and I've never played any of the older ones that are set like in the Renaissance or whatever, but I enjoyed it. Let's see. I know we're going to have more questions right now. Somebody was like, do you know who I am? There's your question of the week. That was, have you considered doing another series on The Long Dark? Or doing a series, Michael Kattinger. I've actually done a Long Dark series if you wanted to go check it out. It was before the map was expanded. I am waiting for the 1.0 release of The Long Dark before we hit it for a Season 2. I am planning on playing it, though. It is one of my favorite games of 2014, and I feel like it was probably one of the best games of 2014, especially now knowing in retrospect where the development was going to go. It was a very, very, very good thing. Let's see here. What else do we have going on? Well, it looks like there's not a whole lot of questions. I think there's one right there. I see a question mark. That's what I do. That's my secret when I go through, is I look for the question mark at the end of the sentence. Unfortunately, my window, it's going to blind you all. Oh, there we go. I had to open up the window so that I could see. But for right now, what I need to do is, I saw the question mark. It was here just a second ago. I've got a topic that I think is interesting, and that's early access games. I know that you've played a lot of them, but what do you think should be done about them? Honestly, a lot of developers use it as an excuse to release broken games. We'll use that as another video log. I think that one, I don't think I could contain that for the next little bit. Let's see. Well, I think the thing is here, have you played, that's a good one. Have you played, so Joseph Jacobs wants to know if I've played Munchkin or Ninja Burger. No to the second half, but Munchkin I've played a lot of. Munchkin is absolutely fantastic. Like, Munchkin is one of those random games that you see like around, and you see other people playing it, and eventually you will get yourself like invited to a Munchkin game. And if you haven't played Munchkin, it's a very lightweight little card game where the goal is to level your character up while trying to sabotage everybody else from leveling up. And the game sort of uses tropes a la Penny Arcade from various video games and sort of like RPGs and tabletop gaming. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. It's a very, very cool game. So if you haven't seen it yet, you should definitely check it out. Let's see. Would you be playing Shadowrun Hong Kong? Absolutely. Yes, we will be covering that one 100%. What is your most fond childhood memory? From Keithan Kilpatrick. I had a kitten, so it was my first pet. And my fondest memory about her, she's gone now. She died probably 5 or 6 years ago, but she was a she was a Siamese cat that we had gotten from a random lady that lived out in the apartment complex where we lived, and she was the last kitten. She was the runt of the litter. And my fondest memory, I think, from childhood would be that was my first pet. So my parents got this kitten and they brought it home when I was like 9 or 10 years old, and they were like, "You get to take care of this. This is the animal for you." You know what I mean? It was a family pet, but they brought it home because I had wanted a pet. And so this cat and I grew up together, essentially. Like, we were litter mates in every sense of the word. Like, we ran together, like, when we moved. And she was an indoor cat for a while. Then she was an outdoor cat when we moved to the country. She was a trouble cat, too. She had a lot of personality and a lot of, like, she was a real violent, grumpy cat, but she only liked me because we grew up together and I was, like, the first person she bonded with. But my fondest memory is that there used to be in our living room, there was no, it was in the kitchen. It was in the kitchen, kind of like a kitchen dining room thing. There was a potted plant. And the kitten would get in behind the potted plant, and I would get down, and I would put my hands up like this, like I was ready for the cat, like I was going to catch her, and she would jump out of the bush, and she would land in my hands. I'd pet her a couple times, and I'd let her go, and she'd go back in, and we would just do that over and over again for hours. And when I think about it, it's tremendously relaxing, and it's very nostalgic, and you feel warm. And you just kind of like remember like the tone of the room and like where the sun was, in the sky when you were doing that, because it used to shine through the back window. And I remember everything like about that particular moment in life. And I think that's probably my fondest memory. I think that's the one right there. That was a good one right there. I enjoyed that one. All right. Do we have any other questions here? If I didn't, let's see here. Do you play or enjoy horseshoes? Hell yeah, I love horseshoes. Horseshoes is the greatest. Horseshoes is a blast. I grew up playing horseshoes. We had a horseshoe pit in the backyard, actually. My dad built one because him and a couple of his friends were really, really into horseshoes. And I like horseshoes a lot. Horseshoes is a hell of a game. Like, you can sit and just like kill an afternoon with a beer, and like with a case of beer anyways, and some horseshoes. So if I didn't get your question today, we're just about out of time. If I didn't get to your question today, that's our Q&A. If I didn't get your question, ask it again, or better yet, send it to me on Twitter, or B, and just like in the Twitter message say question for Q&A, and just line that up right there. I'm going to make an ask.fm page too, so that I can more effectively regulate these questions, and so I can open that up so that I'm not scanning through. I'm in the process of still learning how to do this video log. I feel like the first half was good. The second half, I'd like to like get the Q&A a little bit more streamlined. So my name is Splattercat. This is the Weekend Review. I hope you enjoyed our talk. Seriously, consider some of the things. If you suffer from any of the things that I talked about today that I've worked my way through, whether it's being overweight or addicted to being angry all the time or MMO addiction or whatever it is, please, please, please take my advice. Just figure out a way to smooth those things over, because it will make your life better, I think. I'll see y'all later. Hi, dude. Next Sunday, I'll have another question for you. Bye, everybody.